Christine from Amelie Designs. Today I'm going to show you how to use up some of these scraps that we all accumulate after these projects that we have. So on our website we have a pattern called the multi-purpose pouch. We give it away for free. Now I'm going to give you some video instructions on how to create it. Here I have one that's done out of pinks strips. And I just throw all my neutral colored threads in here, and I keep it by my sewing machine, so when I need white, off-white or black thread, I have it available to me. First thing you want to do is you want to go through your strips, and you want to find some strips that look pleasing together. And that is what I've done with these. First thing you want to do is you want to sew all these 5 strips together. You just go ahead and sew the whole strip together. They need to be at least 15 inches long or 16 inches in length. So you sew them all together with a 1/4 inch seam. Press all your seams in one direction and then trim it so it's whatever the width is of the 5 strips plus 15 inches. Then you want to place it on top of a backing fabric. Your backing fabric will be wrong side up. I just use Kona cotton. If you don't have backing fabric available to you in a large enough chunk, go ahead and just sew some more strips together and use that as your backing fabric. Then you want to place a piece of batting down, and then you want to lay your strips on top. The next thing I want to show you is how you can very quickly quilt this with minimal effort. Now, if you know how to free motion or you're learning how to free motion, and free motion quilting is where you drop your feed dogs so you have no feed at all, and you do pretty little swirly designs and flowers and hearts and lazy ease. If you're learning how to do that, this is a great place to practice at because it's a small enough project that you can do that quickly. But I don't have time today to do that, so I'm going to just show you a technique I use called stitch along the ditch. It's a little bit easier than stitching in the ditch. But next we're going to move over to my sewing machine so I can show you how to do that. So the first thing you want to do is put your 1/4 inch foot on. And if you don't have a 1/4 inch foot, you've got to get one of these. They're amazing. Now I'm going to use the 1/4 inch in a little bit different way. So let me put it on first. I've got this bright green limey thread in here too, so it should show up really well. So instead of having my guide along the edge of the fabric like you normally would when you're quilting or sewing pieces together, I'm going to move my 1/4 inch guide right here along the seam between this coral and this pink fabric. And I am just going to keep the guide right along that seam, and I'm just going to stitch down. Trying to do this left-handed so you can see. So I'm going to go over to the next line, next seam over. My guide is in the seam, and I'm going to sew that one down. So here you see I've sewn a stitching line a 1/4 inch away from all the seams. Now I'm going to flip it around and I'm going to do what on the other side. By the way, my camera person is my lovely daughter Katie. Say hi, Katie. Hello. Okay, so here I've got my guide in the seam. I'm on the opposite side, and I'm going to do the same thing with all. I'm going to sew 1, 2, 3, 4 more seams. Okay, so here you see I have stitching on both sides of each of these seams now. I also, because I had a white backing, I used white thread in my bobbin, but if you had a pretty fabric like a blue or a pink, you might want to match the bobbin thread to your backing fabric. Okay, so now let's move back over to the cutting table. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to trim the batting and backing so that our layers are all even. And ladies, the best ruler to get is a Creative Grid ruler because it's got these little sandpapery dots on there, and it doesn't slip and slide. If I turn that over, this is like all over the place, but if I turn it here, I have to really work it to slip and slide it around. And you know, when I trim out something, I always make sure I have a horizontal line at the bottom, and then I trim it vertically. That way I know I've got it nice and square. One of the things I love about this is it really doesn't matter what size I cut it to be. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. We're going to cut this all different sizes. Okay, so when I fold it, now here you get the idea of what the little bag's going to look like. That'll be cute. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to add the zipper. Okay, you are just going to be in awe over this. Okay, thing you need to have, you must have a nylon zipper because your sewing machine needle can sew right over that nylon zipper. Whereas if it's metal, you're going to break a needle and you're going to mess up your sewing machine, and then your machine's going to be in the shop because it's going to be out of timing. So make sure you get a nylon zipper. And what I want to do is I want to start with it face down. And you can see that, oh, this zipper is definitely the wrong size for this project, but it doesn't matter. This is so cool. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I have my fabric faced up. I'm going to put my zipper face down. When I say face down, that means the pulley is facing down. I'm going to stick a pin right up here at the top where this zigzaggy is because, you know, I'm going to have a seam here and I want to make sure that, you know, I don't run over this. There's a little metal. I don't know if you can see that. There's a little metal part in your zipper. So the last thing we want to do with our 1/4 inch seam is run over that metal piece right here. So that's why we start at the little zigzag part of the zipper. Okay, now to pin the rest of the zipper down, this is so cool, we're going to unzip the zipper. It just makes it a whole heck of a lot easier to pin in place. I like to pin so it's not going to shift on me. Okay, now I'm going to go sew that down at the sewing machine. So come along over to the other side of the room. Okay, I'm not going to put on a zipper foot. I'm going to leave my 1/4 inch foot on. I'm actually going to hold the threads behind it. I don't want anything, you know, going down into my feed dogs. So I'm just going to gently hold it. I'm not pulling, I'm just holding to help it with a start. And then I'm just going to sew 1/4 inch seam all the way down. I'm going to move pins. So now that I've stitched it down, I want to roll the whole thing back so that the zipper and the batting is actually folded back, so it will look like this on top, but it will look like that on the back.
Show the front again.
Front again. I'm sorry, my camera person is like getting annoyed with me. Katie's getting annoyed with me. She's like, great mom, tell the world.
Meh.
There you go. Okay. But we want you to see it real well, and she's got a really good eye for what we can see when she can get up tall enough to see the camera.
I'm short, okay? I have issues. This camera stand is as tall as I am.
Okay, I'm going to change my foot, and there are a couple things you can do. I'm just going to put on a regular foot. I want to sew close to this folded edge, but I don't want to do a full 1/4 inch seam, because if I do a full 1/4 inch seam, I'm going to miss tacking this down back here. So I want to do less than a 1/4 inch, more like 1/8 of an inch. So I can do a couple things. On my machine, I can move the needle over, which I like to do. Move it over. Or, you know, or you can, you know, move it over and eyeball it 1/8 of an inch. So as you sew, make sure this part is folded back. You can feel it. There we go. Okay, so you see how I've got that little, the white stitching is the top stitching, and it's tacking that down in place. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to zip up my zipper, and I'm going to go back to my cutting table. Okay, now basically what we're going to do is the same thing we did, except we're going to do it with the other side, and we want the right side on the zipper. So I'm going to bring it over. I'm going to pin that zigzag part of the zipper right at the edge. I'm going to put a pin and hold it in place. And as soon as I do that, then I'm going to reach under and I'm going to unzip the zipper because it's just so much easier. That's why I like working with, and I'm going to pin out, that's why I like working with a longer zipper. I'm going to pin it all in place. Okay, so I've got all that pinned in place. And we're going to go over to the sewing machine and sew it all together. Okay, so I put my 1/4 inch foot back on. If you had moved your needle over, move it back to center position. And then we're going to stitch that in place. Same thing, hold the tails gently. Okay. So my pretty green thread is on top now because I sewed it upside down. I'm going to again roll it back. I'm going to put it under my sewing machine. It's a little bit weird because this is all connected. And then I'm going to stitch it in place. Before I stitch it in place, I want to show you another type of foot that you can use too. This is called a narrow edge foot, and it has the flanges in the middle of the foot. The flange is right here in the middle and the fold is right here. So the flange just rides up against the folded edge. I use this narrow edge foot a lot for top stitching because it allows me to get a really straight line. And I just keep the guide right along the edge of the fold and I'll have this perfectly straight line. Okay, and there we have it. I can zip it back up. Okay, so what you should have now is a tube where the pretty fabric and the zipper opening is on the inside and your backing fabric is on the outside. And what we're going to do is I'm going to start with the side without the zipper head. We're going to pin this together and we're going to stitch a 1/4 inch foot, and we're going to put one pin up here to hold it all together. And you really want that zipper right on top. Alright. After you put one pin in the top, go in and unzip the zipper. You know why you need to unzip the zipper? Because if you sew all this up and your zipper is zipped, you can't flip it inside out. So we're going to unzip the zipper about halfway. Okay, so after you've sewn both sides with your 1/4 inch seam, and hey, when you're at the end part, the zip part of the zipper without the zipper pull, make sure you go forward and back, forward and back, forward and back a couple of times to make sure you really lock that zipper in place. Okay, after you've done that, come in with like a 1 inch ruler or make a 1 inch square in the corners of all 4 sides of the bag, and you want this to be inside the seam allowed. So my seam is right here and my square is on the outside. Alright. Now you're going to go in and just unzip the zipper all the way so you can work with it a little bit easier on this part. I'm going to pinch the corner, and I have this line that goes across. I'm actually going to open the seam up just so it's pretty. And I'm going to put a little pin to hold it in place. You'll notice too on the back I have a line. This is going to be my line for stitching across. I'm going to do that with the other side. So now I'm going to go to the machine and I'm going to stitch just across that. Okay, here you see I stitched across. I did do a lock stitch at the beginning and the end. I'm going to take my scissors and just cut the triangle off, about a 1/4 inch. Turn around, do the other side as well. Can throw those away. If anybody knows what to do with those things, drop me a line. I would love to know.
Trash can.
Okay, then what we want to do is we want to flip our bag, right sides out. I'm going to get a chopstick or some other pointy object. I like a chopstick because if I use my scissors, I sometimes poke through the fabric. With a chopstick, I don't. We want to make our little box pleat at the bottom make sure we get it all out. And voila, we have a cute little zipper pouch. Ta-da! Now, be sure to watch the next video because I'm going to show you how to make these in all different sizes and do something a little fancy with the zipper.